I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you hear whispers. Like I'd heard things like, oh, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little like sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of proud family Disney TVA. The showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda.
Yes, we're more than aware of yours and basically every other company that is supposed to cater to children, targeting them with your gay agenda. Be it Cartoon Network, Sesame Street, Hulu, or even Nickelodeon.
Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Show your pride, wave those flags, everybody. Here we go. Red like orange, healing yellow is sunlight. Green, nature blue, harmony, purple is spirit. Baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people, and black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color.
Nickelodeon is a company that's marketed for kids and is putting out videos for a Transgender Day of Visibility, openly promoting a boy that's been groomed into the LGBT lifestyle.
In honor of International Transgender Day of Visibility, meet Time and Nickelodeon's 2021 Kid of the Year finalist, Rebecca Brusahoff.
Growing up in the LGBTQ plus community has given me a different perspective on how I see the world. Trans kids are so much more than their gender identity, and it's so important for people to listen to kids. I wish for a world where everyone can be lifted up and celebrated.
So today, and every day, we celebrate those who are helping others realize that everyone should be proud of what makes them who they are.
Yes, all these companies are clearly open about grooming children into this woke queer ideology, as this is what they want, to turn children into trans kids. With the Disney General Entertainment president saying she has 2 queer children, a trans child and a pansexual child. I mean, she's openly admitting she's groomed her children to be this way. And she wants to do it to your children. And she openly admits she wants more lead characters in Disney stories to be queer characters.
I'm here as a mother of 2 queer children, actually. One transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me, because I have heard so much from so many of my colleagues over the course of the last couple of weeks, in open forums and through emails and phone conversations. And I feel a responsibility to speak, not just for myself, but for them, to all of us. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads.
It's just crazy that this is where we're at in society, in our culture. That these corporations are just openly admitting that they're pushing this queer gender garbage onto kids. That they want it in everything having to do with children. It's sickening. And if it were just these corporations, okay, fine. As bad as that is, we could at least just not buy from these people or not watch their queer content. It's just that it's not just the corporations. It's in everything. I made a video last year titled, "Your Kids Are the Target." Because they are. Any avenue in which these woke Marxists can get to kids, they've taken it. And sadly, that includes schools. And these so-called teachers just openly admit they're talking to kids about this stuff. Some as young as preschool.
Man, y'all thought me teaching the children about me being poly was crazy. But not only that, but they also know that I'm gender fluid. At one point last year, I had explained to them that I was not Miss Lois or Mr. Lois. It's just Lois because I'm not a boy or a girl. And this was all well and good until October, when I also explained to them that I'm pagan, so I am also a witch. And at one point, I had gotten a haircut, and I got in the sides of my mohawk shaved down. And I come into work, and one of the children goes, "Lois, are you a boy? You have short hair." And his sister goes, "No, Lois is a girl." And a third child, who's my favorite, suddenly yells, "No, guys, we've been over this. Lois isn't a boy or a girl. Lois is a witch. Duh."
More like Lois is a groomer. Duh. And not only grooming these kids, who are preschoolers, by the way, to believe that you're gender fluid, which is just mind-numbingly retarded. You're teaching them to believe that you're a witch. How is this person a teacher? Seriously. How has this woman not been fired yet? For one, just look at her. How does any self-respecting parent walk into a school to drop off their 4-year-old and this green-haired moron with spikes in her face that just refers to herself as a witch just go, "Oh yeah, this'll be fine"? How have we gotten to this point where people like this are put in charge of children? And it just seems to be everywhere that these groomer teachers almost always look like this.
Hi, I'm a queer teacher, and I 1000% do not support this bill. And yes, I do know what's in it. The bill in itself is just another way to stigmatize the LGBTQ plus community. Kids as young as 3 and 4 are actually aware of their gender identity, even if they don't have the language for it. Also very aware of who they like and who they don't like.
And what are you? The child whisperer? You can just read kids' minds, can you? I can guarantee that you don't have any children of your own and are just basing this on the queer theory course that you took in college. As someone who actually has children, I can say with absolute certainty that what you just said is bullshit. But go on, tell us more about how you're grooming the kids under your care.
Heterosexuality is pushed on our kids on a daily basis at a very young age. Media, through books, the first Disney movie that you saw.
Heterosexuality is not pushed onto kids, you lunatic. It's the natural state of human beings. See, these woke queer leftists, however you want to describe them, have taken all the abnormal, deviant sexual acts that a human being can perform and positioned them in opposition to heterosexuality. Then created this concept that society has decided that heterosexuality should be the norm and anything else should be excluded. And to do that, heterosexual norms have to be pushed onto children in order to maintain that. So to combat this, these groomer teachers have to teach this queer gender identity crap to kids. Even though, like I said, heterosexuality is just the normal default state of human beings. How do I know this? Because every human being alive currently on planet Earth is alive because of sexual relations between a man and a woman. A heterosexual relationship. Because that's what creates children. Duh. And not only that, but due to heterosexual relationships that stretch back countless generations. I mean, we're a species that exists because of heterosexuality. No one had to push heterosexuality onto kids. If you leave them alone and don't groom them, there is a 99.9% chance they're going to be a heterosexual. It's that simple.
To say that pre-K through 3rd grade are not ready for such topics is actually internalized homophobia and transphobia.
If not grooming my kids into your screwed up sex cult is considered transphobia and homophobia, then so be it. I'm fine with that.
We're very much ready for these topics and are way more accepting than adults when it comes to discussing these topics. We can talk about gender assumptions, pronouns, all the things. And it is child development appropriate and age appropriate.
The green-haired queer teacher that wants to groom kids into her sex cult says that what she wants to teach kids is age appropriate. Sorry if I don't believe you, you freak.
It's literally created as just another means to other queer people. Basically say that us existing is not normal.
Well, that's because by all definitions of the word, you existing is not normal. By all observable reality, you existing is not normal. Everything about you screams abnormal. And in fact, some of the crap that you spew is not only abnormal, it doesn't even exist. Just because you want your perverted beliefs to become normalized, which is what this is about to some degree, at least probably from her point of view, to groom kids to try to make their queer identities become normal, doesn't mean it's going to be. For example, you having green hair is not normal because by default, no human being grows green hair. So it will always be abnormal.
Hi, my name's Az and I'm a preschool teacher.
Great, another preschool teacher. How are so many of these people preschool teachers? I mean, they're teaching 4-year-olds.
So my classroom celebrates diversity. It's probably my favorite thing to teach. We usually use kids' books to talk about this kind of thing.
Her favorite thing to teach to preschool kids is diversity. It's not teaching them letters or numbers or how to write or teaching them how to color inside the freaking lines. No, it's diversity. You might as well be saying grooming is your favorite thing to teach because that's all your diversity crap means.
Recently we started wearing pronoun pins and the kids get to pick a new pronoun pin every day. We have some that pick like she, her every single day and we have some that change it up.
So you're just openly admitting you're confusing the children you're supposed to be teaching with your queer gender garbage. I mean, my God, all these people's pronouns should be groom, groomer.
So diversity is really important in my class. So I recently realized that there's a whole lot of really amazing figureheads and people to look up to in this world who aren't white or straight or male or what have you, and that we should learn a little bit more about these people.
So you're a racist, heterophobic, and a sexist. Good job identifying yourself as a horrible human being that loves grooming children. You should be removed, if not literally dragged from your classroom and never allowed around children again. Next.
So because I've been getting this question a lot lately, I am going to use this space to answer it. And that is, as a preschool teacher, a drag king, and as a member of the LGBTQ community.
Wait. So you're not only another preschool teacher, you're a drag king and part of the LGBT community. So what are you? A guy? A non-binary lesbo? A tree self? I mean, personally, I don't care what you are. I care that you're around little kids and are most likely teaching them your sick, perverted crap.
How do I feel about the new legislations for, like, the Don't Say Gay bill or the reporting of transgender kids? And while I don't see things like that too much in preschool...
You don't see too much of that in preschool. No, the correct statement there should be, you don't see it at all in preschool, or any school for that matter. Because there is no such thing as trans kids. Unless you've been grooming them to believe they are. Are you grooming preschool kids, you drag king lesbo?
My opinion on it is that I don't care what the government tells me to do. I am going to do what I think is best for the health and safety, and that includes mental health and safety and emotional health and safety of my kids.
They're not your kids, you sick freak. They belong to their parents. So you're just admitting you don't care what the government says. You probably don't even care what their parents say. You're going to groom these kids however you see fit, and damn anyone that tries to stop you. Because you know all about the emotional and mental health of little kids. You're not a psychiatrist, you moron. You're a glorified babysitter at best. You're not required to do anything but to probably teach these preschool kids their letters and numbers. I mean, for crying out loud, who do these people think they are?
I will never let any child come through my classroom feeling unloved or ashamed for who they are.
They're not going to be ashamed of who they are unless people like you teach them to be ashamed of who they are. I can only pray you're removed from whatever classroom gives you access to kids and never allowed around them again. So it's just unreal how many of these groomer teachers are teaching preschool and elementary school kids. And they just openly admit they're queer teachers and they're teaching kids diversity and pronouns and other things from this queer ideology. Like, they don't care. They're proud of it. I mean, check this one out.
This is a tool I use to teach students about gender and sexuality. First up, we have sex assigned at birth. This is what the doctor says you are when you come out of the womb. It should be based on chromosomes, hormones, and genitals, but most of the time doctors just look at genitals. Next up, we have gender identity, which is totally different from sex assigned at birth. This is what you feel you are inside, and no one can see this from the outside. There are 3 different sliders that you can move up and down to describe your gender identity. Then we have gender expression, which is how you show your gender to the world. It's usually based on a sort of binary system, which isn't perfect. Again, you can slide these up and down to show the different gendered ways you express yourself. Then we jump down to attraction. We have physical attraction and emotional attraction. These are different. Again, there are sliders that a person can use to best describe their sexuality. This incredible resource is made by the Trans Student Educational Resources. You can go to their website right here. They're an incredible community.
This is the warped, perverted crap they're teaching to elementary school kids. It's totally a bunch of made-up nonsense. I mean, seriously, you not only have garbage like gender identity and gender expression, but you also have physical and emotional attraction? And you're teaching this to 5-year-olds? These people have lost their minds. Yet Democrats and the woke left have become obsessed with exposing children to sexual themes like this, teaching them about their bodies to the point of where they're practically encouraging them to masturbate. I'm not joking. One example is a teacher showing first graders an animated video talking about their private parts, with one point in the video showing the children talking about touching themselves because it feels good.
Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes, when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
You have a clitoris there, Kayla, that probably feels good to touch the same way Keith's penis feels good when he touches it.
Yes, this was shown to 6-year-olds. Thankfully, it wasn't in a public school. It happened in some posh elite school in New York. And the teacher who did it has been forced to resign. But that doesn't mean it can't or hasn't happened in a public school. These sick groomer freaks are seemingly everywhere now. And they're starting camps to try to attract kids to teach them this stuff, calling it things like the sexy summer camp.
That's how we should, like get down with yourself, explore your own body. Masturbation is really healthy, and I recommend it to people of all ages. All ages. As soon as my nephews could talk, they were doing that. That's what they were doing. Kids touch themselves. Kids start to ask questions, and we teach them the language for their bodies, right? That's your nose, touch your nose, show Aunt T you can touch your nose. But my sister's not saying that when they're tugging at their penis, right? But it feels good, right? We have to learn ways to talk to young people about this so that they know how to explore their body consensually so that it's not in public, right? We don't want people exploring their bodies in public. That's not consensual. But exploring your body at any age, grandmas, grandpas, all of us need to be exploring our body.
These people are just desperate to sexualize kids. It's unreal. I can't get over it. I mean, I know to some degree why it's being done, at least in terms of the ideology, to destabilize kids and eventually turn them into activists. But I don't really believe that every green-haired teacher doing this has that goal. I mean, they themselves have probably been propagandized and brainwashed into thinking what they're doing is some kind of moral good to expose children to this stuff. Some think, like the teacher from earlier, that they're fighting heteronormativity or some other goofball nonsense. So, of course, when you try to stop them from grooming kids, they get really pissed off about it. To the point where our groomer president, come on.
Everybody knows I like kids better than people.
He said he vows to protect LGBT kids. With Pink News writing that the bill they're objecting to would prevent teachers and school administrators from encouraging discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grade levels or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. Now, this is what they're objecting to. They're objecting to not being able to teach kids about things that are not age appropriate. They're groomers. These people need to be stopped because no matter how much these woke teachers want to claim they're doing this for some kind of righteous cause to protect kids, we all know the inevitable end to where all this leads. It leads to crap like this, where you eventually have the normalization of pedophilia. Because whether these woke leftists want to admit it or not, this is where all their gender grooming of kids leads to. Because you start sexualizing kids, teaching them about their bodies and how to perform acts like masturbation. It starts making those things appear more normal for children, making more of a case that the sick freaks that want to see children do these things appear more normal. So you have this university instructor wanting to destigmatize pedophilia by way of promoting the term MAPS, which means minor attracted person, a term some of you probably have heard before.
So much for that question. I use the term minor attracted person or MAP in the title and throughout the book for multiple reasons. First of all, because I think it's important to use terminology for groups that members of that group want others to use for them. And MAP advocacy groups like Before You Act have advocated for use of the term MAP.
Yeah, I don't think anyone cares about what a bunch of pedos want to be called. But if you're that desperate to be called something else, we can call you groomers along with the rest of the woke left. How about that?
They've advocated for it primarily because it's less stigmatizing than other terms like pedophile. A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that it means a sex offender.
No, when people hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume it means someone they're going to beat the hell out of if that person gets near their kids. Changing it to something like minor attracted person almost makes it worse. Try identifying as that around a dad and his kids and see how that turns out for you.
And that isn't true, and it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions toward minors. I've definitely heard the idea that you brought up, though, that the use of the term minor attracted person suggests that it's okay to be attracted to children. But using a term that communicates who someone is attracted to doesn't indicate anything about the morality of that attraction.
So you're telling me that identifying as a minor attracted person is just meant to communicate to people who you're attracted to, not define the morality of that attraction. So you're basically setting up a scenario where being attracted to minors could be a morally good thing, because that's what you'd have to be arguing for. As it stands now, every sane, normal person that isn't a groomer woke leftist view the attraction to minors as an inherently immoral attraction. So the only reason to make such a statement like the one you've made is to slightly shift that view away from being an immoral attraction, even if just by a little. But like we've seen from everything else involved with this woke Marxist ideology, is that it starts in the colleges, slowly shifts the prevailing attitude through its power plus privilege and oppressor and oppressed worldviews, until it infects enough people to spread it out into the world. This is how the gender ideology that has infected schools with groomer teachers did it. And now it's doing it with minor attracted persons. If things continue to go, on the way they are now, in the future, at some point, we could seriously eventually see teachers who identify as minor attracted persons literally teaching kids while saying that they may be sexually attracted to the kids they're currently teaching how to interact with their bodies and masturbate. None of that has anything to do with the morality of that attraction. And therefore, there's nothing morally wrong with them teaching kids these things. After all, they haven't done anything to act on it. So, all of this is coming to a head. The drive to normalize pedophilia is coming. There are TED Talks about the need to destigmatize pedophilia. There are people claiming that pedophiles are simply born that way, that there's nothing they can do about it except simply not act on it, as you can see from this tweet from USA Today. This is very similar to the argument that both the homosexual and trans groups have both used to justify their positions. I mean, here's an audio of Dr. Deborah Soh saying that pedophilia is just biological. It can't be changed.
So in the context of pedophilia, I've done brain imaging in the past on pedophilia. The lab I worked in, we had a $1.2 million grant from the Canadian government to do our research. I was doing brain imaging research. And as far as we know from the research, which is, I would say, not marred by activism yet, because I know the people who are doing this work, pedophilia is biological. So it's something that cannot be changed. It can't be cured. And I think that does have implications for how we treat it and also how we prevent sexual abuse of kids.
If this is the route our society is going to take in terms of pedophilia, then the justification to normalize it is already built. It just has to follow in the footsteps of homosexuality and this transgender crap. On top of that, you can also find other university professors talking about and writing books justifying it, which this TikTok video will give you some points from.
My least favorite excerpts from this book that he published in 2015. One objection to the exploitation-based account of wrongness is that it makes the permissibility of adult-child sex depend on how much enjoyment or guilt the adult feels. If the adult feels very guilty, then he did not gain an unfair share of the transaction surplus. Also, if a child's gain in sympathy and affection exceeds the adult's gain in sexual satisfaction, then the sex will not be exploitative. There are cases in which adults have had sex with children without acting from indifference or hostility. In this chapter, being the entirety of Chapter 5, I argue that exploitation does not exist, and that if it did exist, it wouldn't be wrong.
So the grooming of kids to be sexualized is happening, while the normalization to be attracted to those sexualized kids is also happening. And you would think, no way would our institutions and media companies going to defend this. This is going way too far. Well, here's an article from the Washington Post. Yes, kink belongs at Pride, and I want my kids to see it. The article is just as terrible as you would think it would be, but here's the section that really just says it all. We don't talk to our children enough about pursuing sex to fulfill carnal needs that delight and captivate us in the moment. Well, there you have it, everybody. We don't talk to our children enough about pursuing sex for carnal needs. Well, if we don't do it, I guess the schools are going to have to do it for us. But hey, they say they're not grooming our kids. We're being paranoid. When you see an article like this that has 3 11-year-old boys that are friends that all just happen to have gender dysphoria and are transitioning at the same time, nothing to see here. We're just crazy. That's why they make songs about it and then claim it's just parody. Yeah, sure. Keep telling yourself that, groomer.
We'll convert your children, yes we will. Reaching one and all, there's really no escaping it. 'Cause even grandma likes RuPaul. And the world's getting kinder. Gen Z's gayer than Grindr. Learn to love, learn to vogue, face your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate.